Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshipper, lover of leaving. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again come. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshipper, lover of leaving. Ours is no caravan of despair. Ours is no caravan of despair. Ours is no caravan of despair. Ours is no caravan of leaving. Ours is no caravan of despair. Ours is no caravan of despair. Ours is no caravan of despair. Ours is no caravan of leaving. Ours is no caravan of despair. Ours is no caravan of despair. Ours is no caravan of despair. Ours is no caravan of leaving. Ours is no caravan of despair. Ours is no caravan of despair. Ours is no caravan of leaving. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again come.
You are welcome here.
No matter your religious beliefs or lack of belief, you are welcome here.
No matter your age, sex, sexual orientation, or gender identity, you are welcome here.
No importa tu ciudadanía, tú estás bienvenido aquí.
No matter your citizenship, politics,
or relationship status.
No matter your physical characteristics or health, you are welcome here.
Whoever you are, wherever you are from,
you are welcome in this place. Good morning and welcome to the regular Sunday morning online worship of the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Montgomery for July 18th, 2021. My name is Lynn Hopkins. It is my great honor to serve this congregation as its minister, and I'm speaking to you from the ancestral lands of the Muskogee Creek people in Montgomery, Alabama. I'd like to invite you into this hour of worship this morning with words adapted from the Reverend Lisa Ward. A covenant is not a definition of a relationship. It is the framework for our relating. A covenant leaves room for chance and change. It is humble toward evolution. It claims, I will abide with you in this common endeavor, be present as best I can in our becoming. This calls for a level of trust, courage, and sacrifice that needs to be nurtured, renewed, and affirmed on a regular basis. I invite you, if you would like, to join me in speaking aloud our congregational covenant. We, the members and friends of the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Montgomery, promise to serve our community with open minds, willing hearts, and helping hands as we respect one another, honoring that our perceptions may differ, value our differences, working to better understand them in conflict, give joyfully of ourselves, being in harmony with our capabilities, and embrace our connections with each other, nature, the global community, and the great mystery of life. And now let's hear from our coordinator of religious education, Roger Burdett, with A Time for All Ages.
Hey, I am all wet. Literally, I am wet. But that plays into our story today. Welcome to Time for All Ages. So here's what happened. I was at the church. I'm in the fellowship hall right now. You might recognize those paintings. I was getting ready to record a video, and the bottoms fell out of the clouds and a heavy rain began, and I decided on the fly, hey, let's capitalize. Let's have a story about rain. So I went to my trusty source, storyberries.com. They are in Australia. I actually got in touch with Jade, who runs that whole operation. Months ago, I got in touch with her, and she said, sure, you can use our story, so that's what I'm doing. Oh, rain, come. On a hot, hot day, some children long for rain. It is kind of fun to play in the rain. I did that a little bit today, and I'm not a child. This story is written by Aiden Griffin, Fisk, Sarah Narango, and Jennifer Jacobs. I don't know who illustrated the story, but I sure do like their talent. Oh, rain, come. It was a hot summer afternoon, a lot like the afternoons we're having these days. Lalato fanned herself. If only it could rain, her brother Mayamiko said. It was too hot to let the children play outside. Now, I tried to look this up. I don't know what this means. Ndio, ndo? I don't know. Maybe you can look that up. Now, I do know, again, Storyberries is based out of Australia, so it could be something from the Aboriginal language there. I don't know. I failed. Don't fail. Find out what Ndio means. Lalato heard it first. It sounded like a stone bouncing on the roof of the house. Lalato looked at Mayamiko, but he didn't look at her. Look at the big drops falling out of the sky. Ugly, mean thunderclouds. She tiptoed to the window. She looked up at the sky. The sky was gray. It was almost black in color. Notice the way they spelled color. C-O-L-O-U-R. We, in the United States, normally spell color C-O-L-O-R. But sometimes people in other parts of the world, even people who speak English, will spell some things differently. Lalato started to sing the song her best friend Mwansa had taught her. I won't sing this, nor will I attempt to say the words that I don't understand, but I'll read the English words that I'm glad they put in there. Oh, rain, come, so we can play in the rain. Oh, rain, come, so we can play in the rain. Look at that picture. What is that about? Let's do a little bit of interpretation. I see the cat's claws down in the bottom, but the two human hands. I wonder, is that one person clapping? Is that two people holding hands? I'm not real sure. Let's keep going. Ah! Look, Lalato sang, rubbing her fingers together. Rubbing her fingers together. Again, I don't know what that means. That's interesting though. She's saying rubbing her fingers together. And then we have our Ndio word again. More raindrops fell from the sky. Maya, it's raining, Lalato yelled. It's raining! And they ran outside the house. Mama was already putting buckets around the house to collect rainwater. Why, think for a second, why would you collect rainwater? I wish we were together in person. We could get some ideas. Why would you collect rainwater? They ran to the road in front of their house and they joined the other children, just having a good old time. A chorus of that song, Oh, Rain Come, was heard all over the neighborhood. These are happy times. The sky opened and poured more rain, joining into the music of the day. And that is the way the story ends. I was expecting more, but I like it. It's a good ending. We can leave these children there. The sky opened and poured more rain, joining into the music of the day. I hope that story gave you a little bit of joy in your life. I wish you a great week.
In each service, we set aside a moment to lift up and let go the things that we carry with us through the week. This is a time of rapid transition and uncertain circumstance. Much of the nation seems to be well into recovery from the pandemic, but Alabama continues to rank at the very bottom in vaccination, and as we are seeing spikes in other places around the country, we are bracing for the worst here, even as rates of infection are doubling. We are grateful for those who are doing the work of vaccination and public education. We look forward to a time that we can be together. These second Sunday services have been refreshing, but so not enough. Whatever you are carrying this morning, whatever is on your heart, whatever is in your mind, whatever you are looking forward to, celebrating, whatever you are apprehensive about, I invite you to share in the chat box adjacent to the video whatever you carry this morning, so that we may be together in fellowship and care.
Spirit of life, come unto me, sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion, blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me. Fuente de amor, ven hacia mí, y al corazón cántale compasión. Sopla
As we move into the new year of the religious calendar, I want to try some new patterns and practices. So, tentatively, I am taking third Sundays as an occasion for talking about some specific spiritual practices that might be helpful to some of us. This is an expression of our third principle. We covenant to affirm and promote acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations. And our fourth principle, we covenant to affirm and promote a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. Whether or not we as individuals come into religious community with the intention of transformation and growth, and I suspect that most of us, like me, entered initially with the yearning simply for hospitality, inclusion, and sanctuary, a safe space to be fully ourselves in community. But religious practice that is authentic and powerful and healthy will inevitably lead to personal and communal transformation and spiritual growth. Ministers are always looking for ways to encourage and facilitate spiritual growth for their congregations as well as themselves, ways that feel affirming and yet challenging. I encountered some ideas that were new to me at General Assembly this year, and I've spent the week since then in reflection about how I can share some of this, understanding that as a diverse body of individuals, nothing we find together will speak to all of us. Still, in my own experience, it is often the very practices that I might have dismissed or ignored as silly or irrelevant that end up having the most powerful impact on my own spiritual journey. So I invite you into a spirit of openness and beginner's mind as I share over the coming months a few of the ideas and activities that you use around the world shared with us at General Assembly. Covenant is central to what it means to be a Unitarian Universalism. We don't hold any specific shared beliefs, and it is actually written into our association bylaws that no congregation will ever require specific beliefs as a condition of membership. Instead, our tradition is centered on how we show up for each other. The exercise I'm about to introduce to you is based on the idea that it matters just as much how we show up for ourselves. This was a project of Sam King, who is a member of the First Unitarian Universalist Society of San Francisco. And most of the content here is adapted directly from his workshop teaching. The pandemic has made imprints on all of us, and many of us view our lives and everything in it differently from before. But even without a major catastrophic event, we are always undergoing change. Some of it semi-permanent, like a personal evolution. Some of the change is momentary, but not less profound. We are different when we are hungry from when we are full. We are different when we are anxious or fearful from when we are feeling grounded and peaceful. We're different when we are feeling attacked or disrespected from when we are feeling accepted, included, and at ease. Developing a personal covenant is a tool that can help the parts of ourselves, the manifestations of our personality, come together. Too often we compartmentalize our thoughts, feelings, our time. We might be all in for social justice on Sunday morning and then go shopping at a business that forcefully advances inequality and oppression. We might feel that something is important enough to complain about to anyone who will listen, but then pass up every opportunity to participate in addressing it or improving it. A personal covenant as a spiritual practice can help us bring the best parts of ourselves forward and help remind us each day of who we want to be. This practice of creating a personal covenant involves exploring a few questions for your reflection and response to help you consider what your personal covenant would be. Some of the questions might not feel right for you. Everyone's personal covenant will be different. If you want, you can reinterpret or rewrite the questions to something that would feel more appropriate to who you are. Or you can just let your mind wander into considering what different questions might fit better for you. And this is not going to happen all at once. Some folks come away from the initial exercise with a full first draft of a personal covenant, others with only notes or initial thoughts that will develop over time. And the last point I want to make before getting into the questions is this is an open, creative, generative space. Don't worry about coming up with the right answer or the perfect insight. Don't even worry about coming up with something that will hold up a month from now. Your goal at the start isn't to actually write the covenant. Right now, you're just trying to come up with as many ideas, directions of thought as possible, that you'll then whittle down into a covenant that will come later. I'm going to start by posing questions about your values and beliefs, what you care about in the larger world. And then we'll narrow down a bit to thinking about your own individual self, how you might imagine you want to grow and change and develop, who you want to be. And then we'll look at being gentle, compassionate with yourself, thinking about self-care, expanding that compassion out to the larger community. As UUs, we tend to have high-minded ideals and dreams of changing the world, of setting things right. So for our first set of questions, let's start here. If you could wave a magic wand, what would you change? What energy do you want to put forth into the world? What service do you want to be to others? What goals or objectives do you have outside of yourself? Of course, the first step to changing the world is changing ourselves. So here's the next set of questions. What do you want to learn? How would you like to grow? Where do your expectations of yourself not match your capabilities? What, if anything, do you want to change about yourself? What did you want to be when you were a child? Do you still have those dreams? And what dreams do you have for your future? When you succeed, what does that look like? How do you want to succeed? And when you fail, as we all do, how do you want to fail? So the next set of questions is about being gentle with yourself, taking care. When you're having a hard time, how do you sustain yourself? What did you do to take care of yourself during this past year? When you're tired, how do you rest? What is something that brings you pure joy? When do you feel most yourself? When do you feel most at peace? And now that we've thought about being compassionate with ourselves, it's time to think about opening our hearts and being gentle with others. How do you want to show up for other people, for your friends, for your family, whatever that means to you, for your partner, for your congregation, for the people you don't even know very well, for the people who annoy you, for the people you really just don't like very much, for all of the beings on this planet? How do you show up for others? Now, of course, these few questions cannot capture who you are. So consider what is something that was left out. What's a question I didn't ask about what expresses your highest intentions and true self? This was a lot of thinking with our heads, engaging our analytical minds about thoughts and feelings, who we are, who we want to be. But a covenant isn't just ideas. It's meant to be something that we carry with us that helps to define, to provide a framework for our relationships, including perhaps our relationship with ourselves. So let's consider things of beauty. What is a song that really makes you feel something, that has touched you or opened you up? What is a piece of literature or drama, a photo or painting, a mural, graffiti, street art, sculpture, something, anything that you find beautiful and that touches your inner self in a life-giving way? It may be not something created by human hands, but something in the natural world, or an activity, or a sensation. What is something beautiful that provides you with energy and encouragement when you encounter it? If you have been trying to follow along with practice, you may find at this point that you're just so full of seemingly scattered, unconnected bits. It should be a wealth of elements and ideas. Your goal with the covenant is to have something you can come back to very briefly each day. It won't be more than a few sentences, short enough to memorize, short enough to carry with you, and full enough with your own meaning and essence that it can center you, ground you, even if only just a little bit when you're not feeling quite yourself. So the next step is to go through your thoughts, your notes, all of the things that you've been working with, all of the things that have come up for you, and narrow them down. Instead of thinking of all the things that are meaningful, you think of what is most meaningful, most important. If the thought is good but doesn't seem quite like it's you, let it go. If it feels like it fits you, but it's not evocative enough, let it go. If it's too similar to something else, if it feels redundant, if it feels contrived, if it feels from outside of yourself, let it go. If it feels true, but really not something that you need to remind yourself of on a daily basis, let it go. And if after all that you still have too much, let some of the gems go too. Remember what you are letting go in this process. You're not losing it. You're not destroying anything. You're just not bringing it into the action in this moment. We'll continue to go back and revisit and reconsider throughout our lives in order to keep covenant with ourselves. And the last part of the process is finding where it fits in your life, just as our congregation and many others speak aloud the congregational covenant each week. Your personal covenant should fit into a specific part of your day. For some people, that might be based on the clock, maybe first thing each morning or before a meal or after a long day at work. For some, it might not be a specific time, but instead based on some trigger when you notice yourself feeling a certain way, when you find yourself about to do something that you do not want to do, when you enter a certain physical space that provokes anxiety, whatever the time is that is most useful to call your covenant forward in your mind, to say the words to yourself. And if you find this practice interesting, if you think you might want to give it a serious try, come back to this video, and when I put a set of questions out there, you can just pause it to do some scribbling and pondering before resuming the playback. Take all the time you need. What is created here is a source of encouragement and strength and comfort, as well as a challenge to hold ourselves accountable and invite ourselves into becoming the person that we imagine ourselves to be on our best days. I think if you give it a try, you'll find it interesting, revealing, whether or not you stick with it. This is a spiritual practice that gives us a tool for directing positive energy toward growth and caring energy towards ourselves and a wider compassion for the larger world, as well as a deeper appreciation of the things that bring us joy in our daily life.
Something I'm learning day after day, something that steadies my feet on the way, is the truth that my life brought me right to the place I am now. Though I don't know how, there is not a doubt. Nothing is wasted, nothing is lost. All that I went through, whatever the cost, I can use on the road to the person I'm trying to be. None of it came free, but all of it is me. All of who I am is beautiful and strong, as I come to know that all of me belongs, my best and my worst, the ways that I've grown, the struggles I've faced, Every last regret, bless me move ahead. He's on the journey, he's on the wisdom unbounding, whatever I ask. And I've come to believe that what I need I will find. Every single time, love will be my guide. All of who I am is beautiful and strong. As I come to know that all of me belongs, my best and my worst, the ways that I've grown, the struggles I've faced, the joys that I've known. There is a blessing I'm trying to understand. It's been there since my life began. I will find it in all of who I am. All of who I am is beautiful and strong. As I come to know that all of me belongs, my best and my worst, the ways that I've grown, the struggles I've faced, the joy that I've known. There is a blessing I'm trying to understand. It's been there since my life began. I will find it in all of who I am. I will find it in all I am.
I hope you'll join us for second hour on Zoom. The link is on your screen. I've got a few different things I want to try to discuss today, so I'm not sure where it's going to end up going. Come, participate, share. There are a lot of things happening through the week. The first meeting of the board comprised of its new members is coming on Tuesday night at 7 o'clock. That'll be on Zoom. Anyone is always welcome to attend a board meeting, but if you want to speak at the board meeting, you need to get on the agenda by contacting the president in advance. We continue with all the weekday evening programs, so keep an eye on the calendar on the website. You can go to uumontgomery.org and click on calendar. It's right there. Keep an eye on your email. The Beacon Weekly has announcements of new things coming up and things that might be of interest from outside of the fellowship within organizations and groups that are of shared purpose. And if you're on Facebook, keep in contact with the Facebook group. It's an open forum where you can share thoughts, observations, and needs, as well as meet needs that are shared by others. So all of these things continue to be ways that we can stay connected until we are able to truly come back together. And for now, our service has ended. May our service begin.
Thanks, Carl. We are here to be lifted in love. Look at the trees, they tell us that we are here to be lifted in love. Look at the birds, they tell us we're here to be lifted in love, to listen to love as a flower raises its face to the sun. We are all one, here to be lifted in grace and love. We are here to be lifted in love. Look at the sky, it tells us we are here to be lifted in love. Look at the sea, it tells us we're here to be lifted in love, to listen to love as the children raise all their faces to the sun. We are all one, here to be lifted in grace and love. We are here to be lifted in love. Look at the trees, they tell us we are here to be